Last time, Freddy found the 4-star Dragon Ball before being attacked by mercenary Tao. Freddy's loss drove him to climb Corrin's tower in an effort to learn how to take better control of his mind. Upon Tao's return, Freddy beat him and headed off to Red Ribbon HQ to take their Dragon Balls so he can revive Upa's father. Upon arrival, Freddy quickly beat everyone who stood in his path until he found Commander Red and took him out, taking his Dragon Balls and ending the Red Ribbon army once and for all. Needing Bulma to fix the Dragon Radar, Freddy returns to Kame House. Find out what happens next as Freddy meets fortune teller Baba. At Kame House, Bulma can't seem to find anything wrong with the Dragon Radar, but Freddy tells her it won't show him the location of the final Dragon Ball, although it was earlier. Bulma responds by saying that it's likely just been eaten by some animal, which means they're basically out of luck because Lord knows where it is. Roshi then tells them to find fortune teller Baba, as she can quite easily locate an item like the Dragon Ball for them. Roshi tells everyone where Baba's palace is. Yamcha, Puar, and Krillin say they want to join Freddy, to which Freddy happily accepts. He likes having the company, and after seeing the visions in Corrin's tower, he has grown to appreciate his friends even more. When asking the others, Bulma says she doesn't enjoy almost dying when she's on adventures with Freddy, which, fair enough. However, Oolong just declines because he's a bitch. I think Freddy would also ask Roshi and Launch if they want to join. Roshi, however, would decline, as he knows more than everyone else does about Baba. And while he doesn't say that, I just don't think he'd want to interfere with what he knows will happen. However, I do think Freddy could convince Launch to go, considering it's probably easier to entice her more aggressive side. Freddy would also want her to come because that means he can control any potential outbursts. Basically, it helps him do his self-assigned job of protecting people. Even though nobody knows quite what to expect from this adventure, everyone assumes that it should be fine considering Roshi sent them on it. Meanwhile, at Kame House, Roshi states that he's unsure if Freddy is ready. And that leads me to a point I actually want to talk about because I've never discussed it before. Now we're gonna get on some power levels. While Freddy very rarely uses his full strength, he'd probably be at least the same level as Goku when Raditz pulls up at the beginning of Z. I think we can put him safely at like 400 to 500, probably like closer to 400 to 450 in terms of a power level, which puts him above everyone in the anime at this point. However, I will say that won't last forever in this universe. As mentioned before though, he frequently holds back anyways so he can learn from his fights, which can also be to his detriment if he underestimates his opponent. Back to the story, the plane has to stop for fuel, and I do think Freddy's clothes are still tattered, so it would probably make sense to get him some new ones. Mostly out of the honor of representing though, because let's be real, he doesn't actually even need to wear clothes. Because he's got time to kill now, Freddy would likely go to get Upa since they're basically setting out to get the final Dragon Ball, and it makes sense for him to be there when they find it since Freddy's getting the Dragon Balls for Upa. Upa is happy to see Freddy once again, and when Freddy explains that they're close to finding the final Dragon Ball, Upa agrees to join Freddy and friends. Once the band is back together, they continue once more to Baba's palace, and despite the hurdles in their travels, they manage to make it in one piece. Upon learning there's a line, Freddy and friends must wait. I also think because of the location, Launch is likely to sneeze, turning her good. While the people in line seem suspicious, a rich couple walks past and it reassures the group. However, then the next group of people get their asses whooped, which confuses everyone once more. When they talk to Baba, they learn that they either need to pay 10 milli or fight 5 people. And because they're Pokemon viewers, they have to fight. The fighters only seem to be Krillin, Yamcha, and Freddy since Launch is good right now, and Puar and Upa likely would not want to fight. This ultimately means that the first match would go the same, with Krillin fighting and losing to Dracula Man. The team then decides to send in both Puar and Upa like in the original story, which ultimately leads to the defeat of Dracula Man, and then the battle between Yamcha and the Invisible Man. We're really gonna go through all of Universal movie monsters, aren't we? Yamcha would struggle to fend off the Invisible Man until he thinks to sense his movements. While this works at first, Baba starts singing a horrible song so Yamcha can no longer hear the footsteps. And this is when having Launch around makes a difference. Having likely sneezed once again thanks to not only the environment, but also the fighting nearby. I mean, there was an abnormally large bat flapping its wings and flying around. Her hair probably got in her face at least once, be real. I think Launch would personally try to shut up Baba, and considering everyone seems to be scared of blonde Launch, at least at first, aside from Freddy, Baba might actually shut up. That would likely lead to Yamcha being able to beat the Invisible Man without Freddy having to get Roshi and Bulma, since Yamcha clearly is the stronger of the two. He just couldn't hit him very well. This, however, brings Freddy and friends to what is quite literally called Devil's Toilet, where Yamcha must now fight the Mummy. I swear, if the Gillman is next, I am going to riot. Also, the fight is incredibly one-sided in the Mummy's favor, but Yamcha doesn't want to give up despite that, almost leading to his death. However, Freddy gets the save with the power pole, leading to a loss by DQ for Yamcha. Freddy then steps into the arena to fight the Mummy. Even though Freddy is just standing there, the Mummy doesn't attack at all until Freddy basically asks him if he's going to. However, Freddy actually plays very defensively and evasively. It helps him learn his opponents and adapt to them, on top of letting him see if there's anything to learn in terms of how to improve or get better from his opponents. The Mummy lands a few hits, but Freddy gets up effortlessly because, of course, it did not hurt him. I honestly don't know if he can even feel pain. However, upon seeing that, the Mummy tries to ensnare Freddy in his bandages. But even if Freddy were to be ensnared, without the ability to break free, which I think is unlikely, Freddy could likely overpower the Mummy, which would allow him to threaten the Mummy by dangling him over the swamp. And I know the Mummy is immortal, he can't die, but I also know he's not stupid, and he probably would concede at that point, seeing like, okay, well, I've lost, there's nothing I can do, and he'll just leave me in the swamp for the rest of my life. Freddy is then faced with Devilman, and Devilman also likely couldn't hurt Freddy, but he does have a trick up his sleeve in the form of the Devilmite Beam. Now, I don't think Freddy would be affected by the Devilmite Beam, as Freddy has done nothing intentionally impure, much like Goku. If Freddy were to have done something inappropriate, for example, it would not be out of malicious intent, but instead because he just doesn't know that it's bad. However, to be honest, upon seeing that Devilman has nothing to teach him, I think Freddy would just whoop his ass before he can even launch the Devilmite Beam. Freddy faces the Masked Warrior now, so not the Gillman, thankfully. And Freddy's holding back actually works this time around, as Freddy is able to learn from the person across from him, or at least have a good match with him since he fights honorably. While the Masked Fighter cannot harm Freddy too much, he is able to knock Freddy around. Freddy is stronger than people, but it's not like he's an immovable object. However, as the Masked Warrior is fighting Freddy, he sees his friends rooting for him, and he falters for a moment, even though it's brief. Freddy's not done just yet, but neither is the Masked Warrior, who brings his hands together and starts to prepare a Kamehameha. Freddy allows this as a way to gauge just how strong his opponent is compared to him, and after everyone sees that Freddy was able to defend against the beam, the Masked Warrior concedes happily and then reveals that he is Grandpa Gohan. Freddy embraces Grandpa Gohan, happy to see him after so long, even more so knowing what happened to him. Meanwhile, Grandpa Gohan learns about all of Freddy's adventures and about all the friends he's made. Unfortunately though, he can't stick around. Before he leaves, he tells Freddy one very important thing, that he's proud of him. Baba locates the Dragon Ball for Freddy and points him in the direction of it. Although, I think Freddy would be more willing to wait for the car to arrive rather than go find the ball himself. I think seeing Grandpa Gohan hits him really hard here, as he knows he's involved in its death, albeit he didn't do it purposefully or consciously. But he just wants to take a moment to appreciate the fact he got to see him again, and he wants to spend some time with the friends he was congratulated for meeting. Eventually the car arrives. However, it's just the Pilaf gang. They were able to hide the signal of the Dragon Ball, which is why Freddy couldn't find it. They show up though, and Freddy puts his Dragon Balls on the line for their one Dragon Ball. And then Freddy mops the floor with them, be real. Like, come on. Freddy then flies Upa to the land of Korin, where they resurrect his father with the help of Shenron. Despite Freddy wanting to stay for a while and catch up, he realizes he has to return to his friends because, well, they're all waiting for him. Upon returning, everyone discusses what's next, with Yamcha telling Freddy and Krillin that he wants to train under Roshi. Freddy says that since he was able to get the 4-star ball before the Dragon Balls dispersed, he can just prepare for the next World Tournament. And he's also excited to see how Yamcha grows with his new training. He also admits though that he's just looking forward to having more time to spend with everyone since he doesn't have to search for the 4-star Dragon Ball. With that being said, everyone gets back in the plane as they set out for Kame House. or as some know it, home. I have some important things I need to say before you go. First, thanks to all who worked on this with me, and thanks to Kexrek in my Discord for creating this version of Freddy. Secondly, and this is the hardest thing to say, Freddy in Dragon Ball is gonna be going on hiatus for probably a month. The reason this episode is so late is because, honestly, I just kinda lost the motivation, energy, and focus I was putting into this series before. I also have other projects I want to make, and other videos I want to make as well on YouTube. Videos will still be once a week, so don't worry about that. But Freddy's basically just getting a little break so I can come back and do him justice. I'm excited to show you all what's cooking up in the background too, as it's something I'm super excited about, and I think it'll be a lot of fun for all of you. On top of that, there's also the Cuphead video that will hopefully be coming out within the next week or two, and I hope that does very well. I think you all will enjoy it, considering I put myself through hell to make it. With all that said, I hope you all have a super duper fantastic day.